Hi.
Hello and welcome to a new video from Cabina Doppia.
Today we are going to explore, in a very honest review, the newest feature by InterpretBank, the offline ASR function.
But before moving on to our review, we would like to remind you that if you like our content, you can always subscribe to our channel. Just click on subscribe and you'll be set. So you will receive notifications every time we publish new content, new videos, new reviews, new tutorials, anything.
And more importantly, have a look at our website www.cabinadoppia.com, where you will find a very broad catalogue of on-demand courses for interpreters. They are both in English and some of them also in Italian. You can choose among a very long list. And among all these on-demand courses, we have courses on AI tools for interpreters and translators. We have courses for managing hybrid events as interpreters. We have ASR, automatic speech recognition, on-demand courses, especially designed for interpreters, and many, many others. So have a look at our website.
Now everybody's talking about ASR in the interpreting industry, and there has been an increasingly attention to privacy and where is my data going when I am listening to a speech and I am processing it with ASR engines. So where is the speech going? Where is the information going to be processed? Because most of them work with cloud-based models.
Yes, and this is absolutely crucial, especially for sensitive assignments. But in general, this is very important.
So that's why a number of providers are increasingly shifting to offline first models.
Yes.
So we've already seen, for example, InterpretBank recently leading this shift, but also InterpretBank, which is the thing we are going to review today, has released a piece of software which is specifically for ASR, for offline, let's say,
and
purposes.
Absolutely. But before moving on, let us just remind you that a little bit of a disclaimer. We are not sponsored in any way by any of the pieces of software we are talking about. We are not sponsored by InterpretBank nor by any other software house. We are just testing them as interpreting as professionals, and let's have a look at it, how it works.
And I would like to add that, as always, for those who don't know us, this is our own opinion based on our own experience. So results may vary in your case. I mean, you might agree with us, you might disagree, you might find yourself better off
in the comments.
Much worse than us using these tools. So just write in the comments what is your experience with the use of these tools, and then we can you can discuss and have a great exchange of opinions.
Absolutely.
So
we would be more than glad to listen and to hear from you and to listen to your opinions.
So first things first, InterpretBank released the ASR offline software. So why have we called that a piece of software, not just an addition? Because it is a different application from the main app, as they've said, but it works only if you have the main app installed with a license.
Of course. This is pretty obvious.
In order to get it, you need to go to InterpretBank's download page. So just homepage, scrolling down or just clicking download. And then if you have a Windows machine or a macOS machine, you download the specific piece of software. You install it and you can open it. And you can open it without having the main app open. I mean, you must have it installed.
Yes, of course.
And with a license loaded on that, but not,
open. Not necessarily open, yes.
So here it is. This is our Windows version.
InterpretBank ASR.
And you can see it's pretty straightforward. So it's just a few things that you have to adjust. So the first time you'll open it, it will ask you to download and install the models, which we can go and see them. So, and you have to download the models. So they are all language dependent because each each model is specific for a language.
Yes. You have to download the language of choice.
You can choose between small, medium, and large models. So why do you have a choice of models? Because they will work offline. So the larger the model, the more precise outcomes you'll have.
Of course.
But it will use much more resources from your computer. So
Yes.
since we are using a laptop, we've settled for medium models. Maybe a large model might run on our machine because it has, our machine has like 16 gigs of RAM. So it might run it, but we are not taking the risk. So we
downloaded the medium version.
But if you have a high-end computer, especially a desktop computer
Yes.
with a lot of RAM, with a high-end graphic GPU, then go for a large model.
We recommend the large one. Yes.
Otherwise, you might settle for a medium model.
Yes. That's why we chose medium.
So that's why if you will see that the results are not so precise, it's also because we've settled for a medium model.
Yes.
But then, you can download the models for all your languages of choice.
And that's
the languages available are the ones that you see on screen. There are not many of them, but they are adding as we are,
Yes, they
we
will
progress.
add more and more languages.
And then you will have to select, you can do it here or on the main page, the audio source.
This is the most important part.
Yeah,
maybe.
mind you that unlike other pieces of software, you don't have the possibility of choosing the system audio directly. You will have to choose an input source, even though it says output. Don't look at it, but they are input source, so it's microphones or virtual audio cables or whatever. So if you want to route the audio so that InterpretBank ASR works, so it's the same thing as the online version, as the browser-based version. But as I said, if you want to know how to route your audio so that InterpretBank can listen to the computer audio, not to your microphone, you can always take a look at our videos on audio routing using Voicemeeter, or you can go to the InterpretBank ASR documentation page, and there is a small guide on how, for example, in Windows, how to use stereo mix of Windows.
Well, we have a whole set of videos also on our YouTube channel, so have a look.
So we've set the source, the input audio device,
the languages.
So
this is from English into Italian.
So the source is very important, and because it depends on the model that you are going to use. And the target is because of term recognition, because you can use the glossaries that you've already uploaded and managed on the InterpretBank main app. So it will connect. So InterpretBank ASR app connects to the main InterpretBank application database.
Yes.
And you can have all the glossaries.
We are not exploring specifically how to create and upload glossaries because we've already done it in previous videos. So have a look at our InterpretBank video series if you want to deep dive into how to create and upload glossaries.
Yes, but our piece of advice is that you just select and then you load it.
Yeah, load glossary.
Takes a while, but then when
it's done,
it's done, we're ready to go. So now we will be playing an audio. We will be playing this speech. So this is a speech generated with 11 labs, and it's been purposely made to be quite fast, so that this is sort of stress test for InterpretBank.
And also containing some numbers and some terminology and proper names.
Yes, and let's see how it fares.
Yes. Distinguished delegates and esteemed colleagues, good morning. It is a great honor to be here with you today. We are meeting in March 2026. This is a critical moment for our planet and for our civilization. We have recently concluded the COP30 Climate Summit in Belém, Brazil. This historic summit took place in the heart of the Amazon rainforest. That location was not a coincidence. It was a deliberate choice. It reminded us of a fundamental truth. We are deeply connected to the natural world, and we depend on it for our survival. However, we must face the hard facts. The science is unequivocal, and it is not always easy to hear. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, has given us its final warnings. Human activities, principally through the emission of greenhouse gases, have unequivocally caused global warming. The year 2024 was confirmed as the hottest year on record, but 2025 followed closely behind. For the first time in human history, global average temperatures exceeded the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold above pre-industrial levels for a sustained period. Let us put this into a historical perspective. Sir David Attenborough recently reminded world leaders about our distant past. For much of human history, the global climate was wild and unpredictable. But about 10,000 years ago, the global temperature suddenly stabilized. During this time, the global temperature did not waver by more than plus or minus 1 degree Celsius.
It transcribed the original speech,
Yes.
which, as I would like to, to repeat, it's an automatically AI-generated speech from 11 Labs, so it was quite fast.
Yes.
And as you can see, how did it fare according, in your opinion, Michela?
Well, here we have some suggestions from the glossary.
Yes.
For example, Climate Summit, Vertice sul Clima, and some named entities or proper names, Brazil, or, for example, Sir David Attenborough, or other named entities. And these were, quite well recognized, I would say. Also, greenhouse gases, that is terminology taken from our glossary, the glossary we uploaded before onto InterpretBank. And what about numbers? Well, there are some numbers that were okay. They were correctly recognized by the piece of software, but some others are quite incorrect.
Yeah, quite struggled a bit with, with years, with dates in general. Or, for example, the COP30 Climate Summit, it wasn't in Berlin, Brazil, but it was in Belém, Brazil.
Of course.
But yeah, sometimes, we've made several test runs, and sometimes it says Belgium, sometimes
Yes.
Berlin, sometimes,
Yeah, it changes.
But probably this is also, mind you that we are using an offline model, so
Yes,
it also
of course.
depends on your machine. We are using a medium model, not a large one.
Yeah.
So that might affect a bit, even though the smaller the model, normally the faster the results. So you don't have too much latency, because latency didn't look like a big problem here.
No,
It kept up.
absolutely. It was very fast, I would say.
Kept up quite well.
Yes, also because the original speech was very fast.
Yes.
So I think latency was not a particular problem here, but it struggled sometimes with some proper names and some numbers. Again, this might depend on the fact that we are using a medium model, and of course, this is offline. So, some sort of compromise should always be there in this kind of tools, I would say.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
in general, also about the interface and the way it looks, I think it's quite good, in meaning that it's not, too much information, and the most important information, pieces of information, for example, numbers, named entities, and terminology from the glossary, are highlighted in yellow, and they appear in a quite straightforward way. It's pretty clear.
Yes.
It's not messy, not too much. So I think this is quite good. Of course,
we need
there's
to-
always room for improvement when it comes to visual input, especially for this ASR tools for interpreters, but still, it's a good start, I would say.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of things. So first of all, you are seeing the Windows in dark mode. This is because this is my computer. I personally prefer to use Windows in dark mode because I find it, when I use day mode, I find it quite,
Tiring for the eye.
yeah, tiring for the eye, while I find dark mode more relaxing. And also in this case, this might be more relaxing and less distracting. And we forgot to mention that you can set whether the translations appear as inline or detached. And also the color highlight can be changed.
Yeah, this is quite nice. I
So
would
we've
say.
been using the default setting, so it's soft gold or that yellow.
Yeah.
But it was quite nice. Okay.
And you can also change the transcript font size. This is important.
Yeah, you can also use different size font sizes. For example, you see,
This is bigger.
so this is bigger, and let me go back here. So yeah,
Yes.
So it was too big. Okay, this is better. So yeah, you can adjust. You have room for adjustments, and
you can personalize the interface a little bit. This is quite good in our opinion.
So as you can see, it's very straightforward, very, simple. I mean, not very complicated interface. So, and it's quite easy to use. The only thing that you have to bear in mind is audio routing and the choice of the model.
Of course, yeah.
Because you can then choose a smaller, a medium, or a large model according to the language, according to your computer, the resources, and I mean.
Yeah, but the advantages are clear. The first big advantage is, of course, privacy, because any data remains on your device and it's not stored in cloud. This is the main advantage. The second advantage is that you don't necessarily have to rely on the Wi-Fi connection, on the internet connection, if you're, especially in Italy, that's what happens many times. In conference rooms, Wi-Fi connections can struggle sometimes in some cases, so you don't have necessarily to rely on that connection.
So you can use it in the booth, connecting your computer to the console. And you can also do it offline, so you don't need a network connection, as you just said. Or, I mean, you can use it while you are working in RSI, but then you will need the network connection, because obviously you need network connection to be doing the actual RSI.
Yes, and another thing, Francesco, sorry to interrupt you. If you work remotely in remote simultaneous interpreting or consecutive interpreting, but in any case remotely, of course, you have to bear in mind that you need to configure the audio routing in a different way. But that's what we explained in a previous set of videos. You can always find on our channel. So you can always
go back in our video library and watch them all, because we've been talking about these things for a long time.
So we don't want to repeat these pieces of information over and over. So if you're interested, you simply go back and have a look at our previous videos.
So to conclude, we might say that it's a nice solution for those times where you're working in presence and you don't have a reliable network connection. Bear in mind that you can use InterpretBank ASR Offline with a basic perpetual license, so you don't need to have the AI pack or the I don't remember how it's called, but
which is another plus.
So you don't have to have the monthly subscription or the AI Pro pack, but you can use the perpetual subscription, which many of us have purchased a long time ago, and then
especially in Italy.
And if you are, privacy first, so for assignments that that they may contain sensitive information, so you don't want information, or
of course,
you cannot send information to a third-party server.
This is very important.
So you can process everything locally. So this is fully GDPR and privacy law and intellectual property law compliant.
Absolutely.
If, on the other hand, you are more focused on performance, you have a reliable network connection available, and privacy and information confidentiality is not, top of the list.
It's not an issue because you've been authorized, for example, by your client.
Then you'd be better off using InterpretBank ASR Cloud, and especially the Pro version of InterpretBank ASR Cloud, which
is more reliable.
Is less resource intensive for your own computer.
Yes, this is important.
Because you're just sending the data with your internet connection to a third-party server, which is much more powerful than your computer. Then it processes the audio much better than your computer would.
Yes.
So that's why the cloud version will... I'm not saying will always be better, but 90% of the time will be better than the offline version.
Of course, this is quite obvious. But you have to, to balance the pros and the cons for each solution and decide when to use what. And, this is your job as professional interpreters.
Or you can also decide, if you have a desktop computer with, a lot of RAM, like 32 or 64, gigabyte of RAM,
Yeah.
and like an NVIDIA GPU like a 5080 or 5090 Ti, which is
Lucky you.
now, in April 2026, I think they are around 2,000, 3,000 euro, because for this AI bubble, everything now costs a lot.
Yes. So, lucky
So if you have a
If you
very
have this-
high-end computer, then yes, you can use
course.
the offline ASR models, and you
the
will
large
have
one, yeah.
the large one, and you will have a performance which is close to the online models. Probably not quite there, but very close.
Very close to the most reliable
Yeah.
version. So in this case, the choice is pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
I
but if
would
you
say.
have a medium
Yeah.
tier computer or laptop, as we do, you can go for a medium model, and they work quite well. They're not perfect, but they might help you also when you cannot use online ASR models. That's it.
Absolutely. So we are looking forward to hearing from you, to listen to your test, to your, opinion on the tools. And if you want, you can write it here below in the comments. And we hope to see you at our
just
next video.
Tell us your opinion if you like this video, and what you think about ASR, ASR for interpreting, online ASR, offline ASR, and see you in the next video.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.